This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
And welcome to the X-Zone, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell, and for the next 4 hours, I'm your host and your guide as together we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction, and fiction, most times than enough, it turns into reality. And the X-Zone comes to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. And then the show is repeated in its entirety from 2 in the morning until 6 in the morning, right here on the all-new X-Zone Broadcast Network and our growing family of worldwide affiliates. And, of course, our good friends at Talkstar. If you'd like to send an email, xzoneradiotv.com, on MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And if you'd like to listen to the X-Zone, if you've missed any of our shows or you'd like to promote it for us, which would be really nice, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, you can listen and watch parts of the X-Zone at www.xzonetv.com. My first guest this hour is Barry Rothman, and he is the author of Mary Ann or Ginger. It's available at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. And we're going to be talking about love. After all, this is the month of love. Valentine's Day is just around the corner. Whenever Barry's on the show, we talk about love from a different side, not the side of, we have happily married people or people who are having problems. The single scene is what Barry and I talk about. And Barry Rothman, welcome back to the X-Zone. Always great talking to you, my friend.
Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Barry, this is a very trying time for the single scene. Mind you, I know there's a lot of single dances that try their best to bring people together for Valentine's Day dances. Church groups do the same thing, and other social organizations. In your experience, and you've been monitoring the dating scene for quite some time now, and I consider you to be an expert on the dating scene.
I am, unfortunately, an expert on the dating scene, yes.
Well, that can be looked at in two ways, my friend. Number one, you just haven't found Miss Right yet. And
That's exactly right.
And she's still out there. I'll bet you $10 to a donut that one day you and I are going to be talking, and you're going to say, Rob,
I bet she's listening right now.
You see, that's what I love about your attitude. Totally positive. Who knows? She could be in El Paso, Texas. She could be in St. Helens, Oregon. She could be in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. But there is someone for everyone.
Without question. In fact, I think there is probably many more someones for everyone. So I don't think there's just one person out there for every person. So the odds are pretty good, actually, although I'll probably be spending this Valentine's Day by myself. Or I might do something nice like take my mom to dinner.
Now, that is a wonderful thing, because my first Valentine was my mom, and she still is. And she still is. I love my mom very dearly. She still lives in Montreal with my dad. They're pushing over 80 years of age.
Wow.
They've had their 50th anniversary, and in fact, Laura and myself and the family are going down to my mom's birthday this May. So when somebody says they've done something with their mom, or they're going to do something with my mom, to me that means a lot, because it means the person is a real, genuine, loving person. Because after all,
I talk about in my book, Mary Ann or Ginger, relationships. But at the end of my book, my dad passed away after 58 years of marriage. He was 79 years old, and he passed away just before the book was published. And so I write an afterword about the fact that my book was about romantic relationships,
right,
but you really should nurture, even more importantly, your family relationships. And so I dedicate the book to my dad, and my mom, as your mom did as well. My mom just turned 80 just a few months ago. And so, that, we can kid around and talk about dating and all of the crazy things that you do when you go out with girls. But, when you come down to it, it's family. That's what's really important.
Barry, stand by. You and I have to take our first break. Barry Rothman is our special guest, X Zone Nation. He is a lawyer turned author. You can find a copy of his book, Marianne or Ginger, at Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble. It's a great book, and if you're single or if you know somebody who is single, now you know what to get them for Valentine's Day. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with my good friend Barry Rothman as the X Zone continues, live and around the world from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the all-new X Zone Broadcast Network and Talkstar Radio. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Barry Rothman is my special guest this hour. He is the author of Marianne or Ginger. And before we get back to Barry, I'd like to say hello to a couple of new affiliates who have joined us here on the X Zone Broadcast Network over the last couple of weeks. KHRO 1150 AM in El Paso, Texas. WPUL AM 1590 in Daytona Beach. KOHI AM 1600 in St. Helens, Oregon. And, of course, always say hello to my friends in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada on AM 580 CFRA. Barry, how significant or how important of a tool is the internet when it comes to the dating scene these days?
Well, I think it's becoming more and more important because there are so many internet dating sites. You have Match.com, you have eHarmony, you have a lot of what I would have to call mail-order bride sites, such as Cherry Blossoms and Anastasia, and then there's of course Facebook, which really is, I think, was meant to reconnect with old friends or classmates, but is also turned into a dating tool as well. So I think the internet, at least in my experience, is a big part of the dating process. Not necessarily the best part of it, but there are good and bad in everything. But yeah, it's a big part, I think.
It's been a long time since I've been on the dating scene. Let's see, we have 6 children, 5 grandchildren. So that'll give you a bit of an idea when I was on the dating scene last. And I talk to friends of mine who are going through their second and third marriage now. And they tell me about dating horror stories, both from male friends and female friends. And I sit there and shake, and I say, you got to be kidding. For example, one of the horror stories that a good friend of mine related to me was they went on one of these dating websites, saw the picture of the person, started chatting with the person, and they chatted for about 3 or 4 weeks. They were about 20 miles apart. Then they decided to meet. Well, he said, Rob, I was sitting there with the picture of the person I was supposed to meet. And when the lady sat down in front of me, I thought it was this person's mother.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because what happened was this person had put a picture on the internet that was 25 years old.
Right. It happens all the time. One of my chapters in my book is called Match.com and Other Disasters. And I think that you'll find that, unfortunately, people are not totally honest. I've heard that both from men and women. Pictures are old. The descriptions are not at all accurate. A lot of things like that happen, and that's happened to me as well on Match and other sites. Either the pictures are old, or they're not as the person is not as they've described themselves,
Right.
and you just got to watch yourself. I tend to be a bit gullible, and if someone tells me something, I usually take it as gospel. But you really can't do that when you're on these dating sites. You have to watch yourself.
What are some of the horror stories that you've heard about Barry after Marianne or Ginger was published from readers?
Well, a lot of the stories about the pictures, of course, being a lot older than they should have been, or they're certainly not recent. One of my horror stories from Match, I think, tops most of them. Met her. Turns out she, at least in the beginning, a lovely woman, had a lovely job, and just seemed like a very nice possibility for a long-term relationship. Well, after about a month or so of getting to know her, every time I got together with her, I found out something different, and basically something bad. She had a criminal record. There were all sorts of things. She was fired from a bank because she was forging checks.
Oh, Lord.
There was all sorts of things. So, here I am in the beginning meeting this nice woman, and I'm an attorney, and so, hopefully, be nice to date someone without a record. And then, frankly, the last time I got in touch with her, or she got in touch with me, she called me from jail, wanted to know if I would bail her out. And frankly, the relationship had been over by that time, so I politely declined, and we actually never talked or saw each other again. So, the easy things or the silly things are that the picture is outdated, or the person is not employed where they say they're employed. But I think the story with and her name was Kelly. The story with Kelly, I refer to her in the book as Kelly the felon. Now, she wasn't really a felon, but every time I got together with her, I found out something negative about her. So it was an interesting experience. But I think I would caution your listeners, if one lie rears its ugly head, that you can pretty well be assured that there'll be more lies to come.
Why did you write Marianne or Ginger? What was your motivation, your inspiration for writing it?
Well, I was actually talking with my friend, the actress Sandra Locke, and your listeners might remember she dated Clint Eastwood in the 70s and 80s, and she was in many of his movies. And she wrote a wonderful book about 10 years ago called The Good, the Bad, and the Very Ugly.
Now,
it was very well written, and she wrote it herself, and she tells a lot of great stories in it. And so I was telling her these stories about how I met these women. I flew to London for a date once, and I got stood up. I enlisted the aid of Kirk Douglas as a Cupid to fix me up with his book editor, which he did, which was very nice. And so I was telling her all of these stories, and she was on the floor laughing. She said, "Barry, you got to put this in a book." She said, I don't think most people out there have experienced half of the stories that you've experienced. And frankly, I've searched the world looking for my soulmate, and the search continues, unfortunately.
What's the hardest part of being in the singles dating scenes these days?
I think it is just finding nice people out there. And that seems like maybe a silly answer, but, in the beginning, if you're looking, you're, of course, looking for the best-looking woman, and you're looking for this, that, or the other. And I think as you get older, a good friend is really what you're looking for. My dad, and I was in college at the time, and of course I thought I knew everything, but I remember dating someone, and he was telling me, he said, "Barry," he said, "you should date and marry your best friend." And of course I thought I knew everything, and I said, no, I'm just going to go out and be a little bit of a player and date this, that, and the other. But you know the old saying, the older you get, the smarter your parents get.
Isn't
Well, I
that
thought
true?
his advice was dead on. And frankly, he had been married just before his passing. My parents celebrated their 58th wedding anniversary, so obviously, Dad knew something that I should have listened to.
Unreal, totally unreal. Do you still go into single bars and single dances and these? What
You
do
know,
you?
I don't do the bar scene anymore. I just can't do it. But I do some. There are groups. I don't know if you have them there, but they're called meetup groups. If you go to meetup.com, I think they're in most large cities, even small cities such as Sarasota, where I am now. And these are groups that, depending on your interests, whether you're interested in writing or whether you're interested in learning the Russian language or you're interested in meeting singles, you go to meetup.com, and generally there's a group that you might be interested in. So I would say to people, don't necessarily go to places looking to meet people. Go to things that you're interested in doing. Go to the art museum, or go boating, or go doing whatever interests you, and hopefully along the way you'll find somebody with similar interests, and that may lead to something. That's really better than just scouting out singles in a single bar, I think.
I guess today, in today's world of instant communication and so on, finding out about people is very simple. I know there's a couple of websites where you can actually just pay a set fee and do a complete background check on someone.
Oh, sure. There sure are. And they're not that expensive. I wish I'd have done that with Kelly, the girl we talked about earlier. But I generally, and I was an attorney for many years in Denver, so that's not hard to do. It's not hard to do even for non-attorneys, but frankly, I don't know, it seems to kind of take the romance out of it if you meet someone, you would like them, and then, of course, you go and do a background search. I still don't do that, although I've heard that men and women that I've talked to about that,
Right.
a lot of them do that just as a matter of, just the dating process. I don't either recommend it or discourage people from doing that, but it does seem to take the romance out of it just a little bit, though.
All right, Barry, you and I have to take a commercial break. Please stand by. Exo Nation, my very special guest this first hour of tonight's show is Barry Rothman. Not only is he an attorney, but he's the author of Mary Ann or Ginger, and it's available at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com. And when I come back from this commercial break, I'm going to be asking Barry what his ideal Valentine's Day date would be. Maybe there's a lady out there who'd like to contact Barry, and we'll give that information out later on as well, if he wants us to. My name is Rob McConnell, and this is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until 2 a.m. Eastern. And then the show is repeated in its entirety around the world between 2 and 6 a.m. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network and Talks.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. My name is Rob McConnell. My special guest this hour in the X Zone is author and attorney Barry Rothman, and we're talking about love this hour. Barry is the author of Mary Ann or Ginger. It's available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. And people are probably saying, Rob, what does love have to do with the paranormal? It's very simple. Can you see love? Well, no, you can't. Do you know when you're in love? Yes, you do. Does it hurt when you're not in love anymore, but you want to be in love. Yes, it does. Are you getting the connection now between love, Valentine's Day, and the paranormal? People who are into the paranormal believe in ghosts and they can't see ghosts, but they believe they're there, and that's paranormal. So I believe that love and all the wonderful emotions that we feel that influence our lives are also part of the paranormal because they can't be seen, but they are very real. Barry, what is your idea of the perfect Valentine's date?
Oh my. I think it depends on who you're with.
Okay.
People have a vision of a lovely dinner or candlelight dinner with wine or champagne or what have you. And frankly, I really think it's who you're with. I could spend 24 hours in an empty closet with someone and have the best time of my life, depending on who they are. Or, I could fly to Paris and, be completely bored and not enjoy myself at all. So I think it's not necessarily what you do, but it's who you're doing it with.
I've got visions of you in that closet with all that time. That's why I had to chuckle.
Well, that might be interesting. I've never actually tried that one myself, but you get my point, obviously.
I certainly do. I certainly do. So let's say that you had met Miss Wright, and she's in Sarasota.
Right.
And let's say you met her last month.
Right.
Valentine is coming up. And, you really like Miss Wright. She's given you all the right signals. That little wink. The way she touches your hand.
Right.
You send her flowers. It's really starting to be a relationship. What's your date like?
I think, given the fact that I'm in Sarasota, I think I'd like to take advantage of the natural beauty here. So I might rent a boat for an afternoon and pack a lunch and just get out on the water, enjoy yourselves, bring some music, and I think that would be a perfect Valentine's date, at least a perfect Florida Valentine's date. And that would be very nice. But again, the dinner with candlelight and wine is also very lovely.
Yes, it is.
Frankly, just walking hand in hand on the beach can be very romantic. All sorts of different things. But I think those three things would be something I would like to do with that special lady.
And for all the listeners who are listening to this show tonight, love doesn't stop after you say I do or after the honeymoon is over. It doesn't stop. You have to keep working on a relationship, because if you don't, guess what? It's not going to last. And a relationship is a two-way street. It's give and take, talk and listen. And so many people in today's society, Barry, do not take the time to work on their relationships or to work on love.
Oh, without question. As I mentioned, my parents were married 58 years, and I've talked with both my late father and my mother about it, and they tell me I can't tell you the number of times we've gone to bed angry at each other, or the number of times I've thought of leaving for a little while just to think about things, or but ultimately, they worked through these things, and like I said, they were married 58 years, and they were happy until the very end. They held hands, they kissed. There's nothing, I think, more satisfying to me than walking down the street seeing two elderly people, with their arms around each other, talking, laughing, having a good time. That touches my heart. And it touches my heart when I saw my parents do that. So I don't think I'll be able to duplicate that, because if I got married tomorrow, I think I'd be about 103 if I was celebrating my 58th wedding anniversary. So I'm not sure that's going to happen. But it is. You have to work hard at it, and that's obviously what my mom and dad told me, and have told me many times.
I was the master of ceremony at my mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary, and I don't know why. They know I'm shy. and towards the end of the evening, Mom and Dad wanted to get up and talk. So I introduced my mom, and I said, Mom, 50 years with Dad, what's your secret that you can share with people here tonight? She said, well, son, at a very early part of our relationship, I taught your father two very important words. And I said, what's that, Mom? And she said, to say yes, dear. Okay, well, that was really funny. And, I looked at my dad, and I could see a little in his eyes. So when it was his turn to come up, I said, Dad, married to Mom for 50 years. What was your secret? And he said, I, too, learned two words, son. I said, what was that? Yes, dear? He said, no. I said, what two words then, Dad? He said, Southern comfort. So whether it's Southern Comfort, Johnny Walker, Jack Daniels, whatever, love is the main thing, though. To give and take, laugh together, cry together, work together, but for goodness sake, communicate. And remember, it's a two-way street. And
now, does your dad remember much of his marriage?
Oh yes. And you know what?
Okay, good.
The funny part is my dad never drank.
Isn't that funny? Wow.
So I guess that was his way of giving back in that give and take communication, where Mom thought she was very funny, saying she taught him how to say yes, dear. And she got a bit of a
great.
chuckle.
They both had a great sense of humor, and I think that's probably what carried them forward as well.
They still do have a great sense of humor. They do everything together. My mom had a triple bypass surgery, and then she caught an infection. They had to go in and redo it again. And my dad, God bless him, slept in a chair beside her bed for 3 weeks.
Oh, my.
So, this is what I was exposed to as a child. We had a very loving community family. When I say community, my aunt and uncles lived very close around. My grandmother was the catalyst that held us all together.
Right.
And not unlike yourself, Barry, when you and I were talking during the last commercial break with the news, we used to give gifts throughout the year to show our love and to show the appreciation for the love in the family unit. There didn't have to be a special occasion, whether it was a family picnic or a family camp out or just sitting on the back balcony with aunts and uncles and cousins dropping in.
Yeah, I put this in my book, but we have something in our family called love presents. And those are just things, small gifts that you give to a loved one during the year. It doesn't have to be for any special occasion. It doesn't have to be very expensive. But my mom always taught me to do that, and as a result, I've always done that with the women in my life. If I would go to a store and I saw something that I thought of them, I would get that and bring that to them. It actually gave me probably as much or more joy in giving the gift than the woman did in receiving it. But that's how she was raised. That's how my grandfather, her father, raised her, always to be a little bit giving. And again, it doesn't have to be anything expensive, but it's just my way of saying I'm thinking of you. And so that's something that I've tried to do over the years.
I just received a message from one of my producers on the other side of the glass, and he said, Rob, could you please let your listeners know that before they give anybody flowers, they should find out in a very subtle way whether or not they're allergic. He said, I gave a dozen of beautiful red roses to a lady that I thought was the, quote, and then this is a quote, the cat's meow, and she was allergic to flowers. What I thought was a wonderful gift turned out to be an allergy attack where she ended up in the hospital.
That's funny. I have a good friend in San Diego. She's a ballet dancer, and she's a very beautiful woman, and she's, men are just lined up to take her out. And she recently got flowers from an unknown admirer, and he sent her a dozen red roses, and I was talking to her about it, and she still doesn't really know who it's from, but she told me, she said, well, if he knew me, he would know that I hate red roses. So, yeah, I think you got to do your homework a little bit before you do things like that.
And I know what I find is really tacky when people send internet greeting cards. I find that is so tacky, so disrespectful to the person. Instead of actually spending the money on a real card and mailing it, I don't know. Maybe I'm too old-fashioned. I don't know, but to get an internet greeting card to me says, all right, you thought of me, but I wasn't worth taking the time to do it the right way.
Right, exactly. Well, nobody writes letters anymore. Nobody sends cards anymore for the most part. I mean, it's all done online, and I hate at Christmas time when you get these canned, very impersonal letters from your friends or just people you know, telling you how great everything has been for them over the past year. And, they don't even sign it or address it to you. It's just something they send out to whose ever address they have in their address book online. So, yeah, things are just getting a little more impersonal every day, and you've got to fight against that, especially if you're trying to make a relationship work. Certainly don't want to send a canned email card to someone that you're trying to impress.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you're in trouble when the card comes addressed to the occupant with your address there. And have you ever received a card where the person's or the family's name with all their children's name are actually printed on there?
Oh, sure. Sure.
How cheap.
I know.
How
it's very
tacky.
cheesy. Yeah. But, people, I don't know how old you are exactly, but, I still remember back in the 60s even, there was more interpersonal communication. There was more, there was just a different
way of
values,
doing things.
I think, back then. It was more the Leave It to Beaver type of growing up is what I had, and so that's the way. And maybe that was just TV, and that kind of life never existed. But that's kind of how I viewed things growing up, especially as a youngster growing up.
Barry, we've got about 2.5 minutes left before we take our next break. In your opinion, after writing Marianne or Ginger and being in the dating scene, what would you consider the top 5 no-nos when going out looking for a new date?
Oh my! I've done so many of them. Boy, that's a great question. I would say, and maybe I can reverse that, and maybe the top 5 things that you need to do.
Okay, let's do that. We've got about a minute and a half.
I think you need to get to know someone before you get in a relationship with them. And I think you really, and I'm saying this as a typical shallow male, but I really think you need to get to know someone before you have sexual relations with someone. I think you need to see how that person treats their family, their mother, their father, their brothers and sisters, because and it's been my experience, if a woman treats her family like crap, she's going to treat you that same way. I also think that you need to see how she treats just her friends, and whether she has good, healthy relationships with both female and male friends. So I didn't mean to turn that question around, but those are things that I look for, as opposed to things that I guard myself against.
Mm-hmm. Well, you and I have to take that commercial break again. Over the break, think of the top 5 things not to do, because I'd love to hear them from you. After all, you are the expert when it comes to the dating scene here on the X Zone. And if you'd like to get a copy of Barry's book, it's entitled Marianne or Ginger. It's available at Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com, and I'm sure other book vendors online. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Welcome back, everyone. Still to come on the show tonight, joining me is going to be the movie producer and director, Andre Van Heerden, and we're going to be talking about his latest production that is entitled Shadow Government, How the Global Elite Plan to Destroy Democracy and Your Freedom. And that's coming on later on this evening. Also, in the next hour, we'll be talking to Windwalker Willie Gibson, who's a paranormal investigator, and then we'll also be speaking to Dr. Tracy Latz about love and how to avoid jealousy when it comes to love. Speaking about love, Barry Rothman is our special guest. He is the author of Marianne or Ginger. Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com is where you can get a copy of this book. And Barry, what are your 5 top things not to do in a relationship?
The Letterman top 10 list, right?
Yeah, actually, we'll call it the Rothmans.
The Rothman top 5 list. Okay. There's a number of mistakes I think that men make on dates, and I've heard this from women basically. But one is, don't be too lovey-dovey. Don't try to force yourself, whether it's even something simple as hand-holding or putting your arm around someone.
Yeah.
Just let that evolve naturally. Don't seem too desperate. Usually men that have broken up with someone recently show signs of desperation, like they need to be with someone. And women can sense that and are very turned off by that. I think men should not be too flashy, even if you're very well off. I don't think women, or at least most women, like when you're flashing jewelry or a big expensive car or boat.
Right.
I think women like someone a little bit more down to earth than that. I think another one is you shouldn't really talk about past relationships, especially if they ended fairly recently. Don't talk about your past wives, your past girlfriends. Women don't really like that. And I think the fifth one, and the topper, and this goes along the line with my book Marianne or Ginger, but it's pick the Gingers, pick the Mariannes of the world. Pick the nice, sweet girl next door type. Don't pick the Gingers of the world, the sexy, conniving bad girls. So,
no, that's not nice.
I would leave it with that.
But what about the beautiful, sexy, conniving listeners out there? They're saying we're getting a bum rap.
Well, they probably are. Well, if there's a little Marianne in there, that's it goes a long way. A lot of men I've talked to, and I just mentioned the book Marianne or Ginger. The men will usually say, "Oh, I date Mariannes" or "I date Gingers," and sometimes the smart men say, "Oh, yeah, I date the Gingers, but I marry the Mariannes." So, actually, there's a little bit of Marianne or Ginger, I think, or Ginger in probably all women. So, but choose those women that are a little closer to Marianne than Ginger.
Barry, we've run out of time for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I look forward to joining with you the next time you meet me here in the X-Zone to talk about love and the single life.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it.
It's my great pleasure, my friend. Barry Rothman, he's the author of Marianne or Ginger. Amazon.com and Barnes & Nobles is where you can get a copy of his book. We'll be back talking about the paranormal on the other side of this commercial break with the news right here on the X-Zone Broadcast Network and Talkstar Radio Network.